All right, here we go. Welcome to the War Room. Hey, this is episode 6. It is August 8th. It's a Thursday morning. It's 0430, and this is the War Room. Hey, I want to take a few minutes just to thank you again for all 35 of my subscribers. No, sincerely. It's not about the numbers, and I'm being realistic, a little bit of sarcasm to start the show off. Hey, things take time. Things take time. I know this will grow, but hey, here's my goal for you, and it's always been my goal on these episodes of the War Room. All right? You may not like everything that I have to say, especially in this episode. Woo! Woo! And that's okay. But if you get one thing out of this, especially today, if you get one thing out of episode 6, mission accomplished. Anyway, let's get going, but sincerely, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for all of those who tune in and watch. And again, this is the War Room, and I want to take a moment to thank my sponsor once again, the coffee in my cup. All right, here we go. Episode 6. The theme of this episode, and I'm just going to go there. I'm going to get this over with and then move on. I'm going to open this up with a rhetorical question. And I'm being serious and sincere, and I have a lot of topics to cover. This is probably going to be one of two. Rhetorical question. Is there a difference between a combat veteran and a veteran? Think about it. Combat veteran versus a veteran. Hey, Mike. All veterans matter. They do. And I salute you. Not everyone who served their country in whatever branch of service that they so desired, not all of them went to war. I recognize that. So as we jump into this, there are some very distinct reasons why I'm talking about this subject. And I will tell you right now, I don't think a lot of people talk about it. But I think a lot of people think about it. And as you heard me say before, in some of my past episodes, don't be the fool. Don't be wise in your own eyes. I'm not being a fool. I'm being real. All right, hear me out. I'm being real. First of all, here's my warning. 2 things are going to happen when you watch this video. Number 1, something I say is going to resonate. And you'd be like, yeah, I've been there, Mike. I hear what you're saying. I get just as passionate and as emotional, and I get worked up as you do. And I'm glad you're talking about it. That's number 1. Or number 2, it's going to piss you off. There, I said it. Here's the deal. You got to sit there and hear me out. And if you're the latter and you get pissed off, okay, you get upset. If that's you, maybe there's a reason. All right, before we dive into this, I got to share a couple stories with you because something just happened. Okay, I work as a Department of the Army civilian. I work on a federal installation that caters to the United States Army Reserve. Nothing wrong with that. And before we begin, let me make it clear. You all know that in my last episode, who I am and why it matters. And I ended that with, I thanked you for tuning in. I said, remember, This was episode 5, who I am and why. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because I'm me and you are you. So I'm only basing the things that I'm about to talk about off of my experience. But also, you know that I claim and I say that I spent 22 years on active duty, 22 years in the Army. That is true with a catch. Because I'm about to open up a can of worms. But I want to make it clear to you. I'm going to talk about active duty, reserve, and National Guard. Oh, but Mike, man, how can you talk about the National Guard when you never served in the National Guard? You never served in the United States Army Reserve. You don't understand. No, I do. Check it out. I retired in 2015, and on my DD-214, my honorable discharge, it comes down to numbers, all right? Because I had two, not one, I had 2 breaks in service. Kind of weird. Well, what'd you do during those breaks of service? Well, number one, because I didn't know any better, all right? I went back to Kansas. I got accepted to Kansas State University. All right, that's a whole different story, all right? I didn't go. I went to register and get orientation, and I couldn't do it. I had a very traumatic death in the family, and it happened in Manhattan, and it was very recent, and I couldn't put myself at that time in that environment. And you know what? I'm better for it because I wasn't prepared for college. Woohoo! Anyway, I joined the Kansas National Guard. And that's a whole different story. I almost got listed as AWOL. Man, but anyways, for a short time, I was in the National Guard. And then I had another break in service, and I joined the U.S. Army Reserve, and I came this close to reclassing to a 92 Yankee. Anyway, then my wife lost her job. It was a tech position, kind of at a college. Not a tech position. It was a tech college, and she was on staff. And 9/11 happened, and everything came to a screeching halt. And long story short, I was like, "Hey, babe, I'm going back on active duty." And because I was off of active duty for less than 12 months, I walked into the recruiter's office, and he looked at all my paperwork, and he said, "Man, you're gonna slide right back in. You're not gonna lose rank." Boom, there I am, and here I am today. So yes, I do have experience in all 3 components. Let's jump into it. Here's why I'm making this show. Last week, I'm sitting in my cubicle. It's my float day. All my other coworkers have other mission sets, and I'm the floater. In our foyer is a waiting room, and there were soldiers, because we are in the middle of a U.S. Army Reserve war exercise. It's not a WAR-X. All right? It's a CSTX, and I can't remember what that stands for. I don't care. I do. It happens every year. Simulated battle, and yada, yada, yada. They take it serious. I take it serious. But anyway, I'm sitting there doing my thing. The door's open, and I hear some soldiers talking. Now, I don't know them. I don't know their background. I don't know how long they've served. But I'm going to share with you the 2 conversations they had amongst themselves. Again, there's nothing wrong with this conversation, but it paints a picture that sometimes I disagree with. I'm going to share 3 stories with you. Number 1 is what I'm talking about right now. So yada, 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 I'm minding my own business, and all of a sudden I hear a soldier say, "Well, you know, I was talking to so-and-so, and they said about so-and-so, and so-and-so, and this, and the that, and the other." and here's what I got to do to claim all my VA claims so I can get 100% disability. All right. Have I claimed things through the Department of Veterans Affairs? Yes. Why wouldn't I? I'll talk about that later. So now I'm really listening. And the conversation continues. And the soldier's like, what do I got to do? What do I got to do? And then this other person says, well, I work with someone and that person told me that every year that they do their AT, Mike, what's an AT? If you're in the reserve or the National Guard, you serve basically, so don't get bent around the axle, 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. So your AT is annual training. 2 weeks out of a calendar year that you put the uniform on for an extended period of time, not including deployments. Voluntary deployments, or your unit is on the patch chart and boom, you're being attached for the greater good of the force. Here's my point. That person said, well, every time that so-and-so comes on AT, I file a claim. Doesn't matter what it is, I file a claim. I get it. They're building a stack. If you don't know what it means to build a stack, I never built a stack. Are there things that happened to me, both peacetime and war, that I never claimed? Yeah. Ask Emmett. Who's Emmett? Doesn't matter. But I tell you what, as we're moving into position under NODS PVS 14 at 02 in the morning, and he's on point, and he gets to a point where he has to scale a 6-foot wall adjacent to a high rise with a drop off, and he's going to go establish far side security, and I'm on near side security, and I give him the signal to go, and he pushes out. We're just doing hand and arm signal. I don't know what he's looking at on the other side of that obstacle. Yeah, the ledge and a drop off. He jumps about 2 feet and makes it, and then secures the far side temporarily, and then calls me over. So my point is, here I am, I'm following in the same footsteps as Emmett. Then I get to the ledge and I'm like, oh, that's why he kind of hesitated. Here's the deal. I look down with my monocular. I'm like, oh, I can make this. Depth perception, baby. All right. Emmett made the 2-foot, 3-foot leap. Mike Messmer, Staff Sergeant Messmer, man, I missed it by inches. Yeah, I'm smiling. I didn't make it. And I fell about 6 feet, and there was a metal pipe sticking up. Went right into my shin. Man, I tell you what, we looked back, superficial wound. Stopped the bleeding a little bit, patched it up, moved on. Got some cellulitis a few days later. Man, Emmett and I looked back at that and was like, God dang. Back and he goes, what happened to Staff Sergeant Messmer? He looks down and he's like, holy crap, there I am laying on the ground down there. Here's my point. I never claimed that. I got no reason to, but that's me. Superficial wound. Man, I could have broke my leg. I could have shattered my is it fibula or tibula? Anyways, that could have been a bad scenario with that pipe sticking up. I got lucky. Here's my point. I'm sitting there listening to these soldiers who more than likely, because of the environment that we're in today, they might not have ever deployed. Not their fault. I spent my first 10 years, 10 years in a peacetime army. Nothing wrong with that. Long story short, they went round and round trying to figure out every little angle they could do to claim. I'm just going to say it. Probably some of that is BS. But guess what? Stay in my lane. My piece of the pie. Let's peel the onion back to my number 2 story. I'm on a flight back to the United States, OIF 3. We're in school, all right? Fallujah 2.0. If you don't know what Fallujah 2.0 is, can't help you. We're dealing with the effects of that coming from the south, pushing north into Mosul. It's a firefight every bombs, mortars. I wake up to incoming 60s or whatever, 120s every day. I'm on the airplane flying back because my platoon voted that Staff Sergeant Messmer, the first NCO, would go back because we just had a baby. My wife and I just had a baby. And those guys voted, not me. They're like, Messmer, you're going back. But I'm an NCO. NCOs go last. Well, the platoon voted. Man, that resonates with me. Here's my point. I'm on the aircraft. I'm sitting next to a sergeant first class and a master sergeant. Not active duty. I'm just saying, hey, the United States military cannot operate effectively without additional forces. So if you're a reserve soldier or you are a National Guard soldier whose state was called up for active duty, man, I salute you, because I will tell you right now, I know some individuals that put the boots on every day and they mean business and they know who they are. And they're in the reserve or the National Guard. I salute you. I'm sitting on this airplane after coming from hell. And I hear these two individuals talking about, I'm getting mine. I'm claiming this. At that point, I didn't care. I didn't know. But you know what? That stuck with me. That stuck with me. And then I will tell you number 3 story, which is, it comes back to me, all right? I have a right shoulder impingement. Yeah, I claimed it. For good reason. So here I am in Afghanistan. I'm at 6,000 feet, just jumped off the back of a CH-47 at 01 in the morning. I don't have a clue where I'm at. I know we're at our FOB. Not really, I mean, FOB, yeah. There's only one way in and one way out, and it's not with a wheeled vehicle. All right, rotary wing, all right. I hoist my rucksack up over my head, which was a stupid move. Because I tell you what, when we got to Bagram, we didn't have ammo. We were a small group being attached to a forward deployed unit already on the ground, already established. And don't even quote me what combat brigade or battalion, because I can't remember. They were Rakkasans of the 101st Airborne, Air Assault. All right? They were already there. We're in Bagram on our own, pretty much. And we got one 30-round magazine of ammo. And I'm like, you know what? I'm the lead NCO. That didn't sit well with me. One magazine, that's nothing. 1 is none and 2 is 1. Long story short, I went and started asking the right questions. And I found someone that said, hey, follow me. How much do you need? Well, you know what? How much can you give me? I'll take it all. I grabbed the biggest dude, staff sergeant that I knew could handle it, and I said, "Hey, you're gonna put 2 50 cal round ammo crates full of loose 5.56. Put it in your rucksack. I know it's gonna be heavy. Amongst all our other crap, I put 2 of the 50 cal cans plus another smaller can, and I was like, you know what? We're doing it. The thing is, man, at that particular time, that was not the way to put the rucksack on, and boom, a little bit of a snap. I claimed it. let's get back. Let's get back on track. This is already going to be kind of a long story. At the time that I was forward deployed at the 101st, the 16th Sergeant Major of the Army, Sergeant Major of the Army, Michael Grinston. All right. He was the brigade or division. No, he was the brigade sergeant major of the particular combat brigade in the 101st. He left the 101st, went and became the division sergeant major at Fort Riley, Kansas of the Big Red One, and then got promoted to the sergeant major of the Army. I've sat down and had a personal conversation about force protection with Sergeant Major of the Army, Michael Grinston. He told the story of a female lieutenant that was walking around Salerno all by herself at night. And I tell you what, it's not a bad story. It's a good story. He did the right thing. He said, "Hey, soldier, it's dark." He knows it's a female. He said, "Hey, excuse me, where's your battle buddy? I'm not trying to be a jerk." I'm paraphrasing the sergeant major. And she's like, and they introduced, "Yes, ma'am. Hey, Sergeant Major. I just went over there to grab something. I'm headed back to my hooch." And the Sergeant Major didn't lecture her, but just asked her the right question. "Where's your battle buddy? I care about you. You're a soldier under my watch." "Well, Sergeant Major, I'm not alone." She wasn't being a smart ass. She said, "Hey, I have a loaded 9mm on my hip right now, and I'm not afraid to." Right answer. Probably need a battle buddy. Here's my point. The 17th Sergeant Major of the Army just posted something on YouTube. Go watch it. You look it up. The 17th Sergeant Major of the Army, Sergeant Major of the Army Weimer, talks about combat. And I'm gonna paraphrase. And again, this is part one. Stay tuned, because in part two, I will dive more into the difference, in my opinion, between a combat soldier, a combat veteran, and a veteran. Hear me out. I'm not going to link it down below. Go to YouTube and do your magic. Look up the 17th Sergeant Major of the Army talking about combat and war. I'm going to paraphrase, and I tell you, I love this. I love this. We need to hear this. You need to hear this. Sergeant Major of the Army says, "Hey, I've been to combat a lot, and so have you. But I've never been to war. I've never been to war. Me. I've been to combat 3 times. This last combat, this tour in Afghanistan, was my most austere." I'm telling you, if you don't know, because I never said it, I lived in a horse barn. Yeah, a converted horse barn. Dirt roof that leaked, pee stains on the floor, and the reins of the horse, the O-ring hook on the outside of the wall still there. Yeah, it was built up as best as it could, but I'm telling you, I lived with bugs, centipedes, ants, mice, these water bug, cockroach looking things, spiders. Every time it rained outside, it rained on the inside. Here's my point. I've never been to war. You watch that video and the Sergeant Major says, "I've been to combat, and I've been on many combat missions, but I come back to a forward operating base. I get hot chow. I walk down to the MWR tent. I call home. I sleep at night knowing there's a guard in the tower doing his or her job. But I've never been to war." You want to know what war is? Because I don't. He's talking about the likes of World War II. You go to the front line right now. The so-called war, whatever you want to call it, however you want to look at it, Ukraine versus Russia. That's a war. That's a war. Dudes going out on the front line, living in a foxhole, sleeping with nothing, no hot meal, no running water, no phone call home. Living out of a rucksack. Whatever. Man, I'm telling you, here's the difference. There is a difference. And the 17th Sergeant Major of the Army is 100% right. We better buckle up and get ready. All right, back on track, Mesmer, because I'm going to try to wind this down. I'm trying to keep this under 30 minutes, and we're at 25:34. Here's the deal. I am passionate about what I do, what I think, and what I say, but I've seen some things that just grinds me. It just grinds on me. I'm not the kind of guy that's like, I'm going to get mine. Because it took me a long time to claim a lot of stuff. If you deserve it, get it. But I'm telling you, man, I'm gonna leave you with this one last story, and we will have an episode 2. Here is why I'm doing this. Do I struggle with anger? Yeah. And the Army didn't help. 3 tours to combat didn't help. Do I need help? Yes. Have I gotten help in the past? Yes. Do I struggle with PTS? Post-traumatic stress? I do. It took me many, many, many years to be honest with myself. Mike, you left the D off. I did, and we'll talk about that later. I struggle with post-traumatic stress. Okay, I have gotten help and counseling, and some of that has been faith-based because you know, and I've told you, I do put my hope and faith in a higher power, in God, the creator of heaven and earth. That's me, all right? Some excellent faith-based counseling. Nothing wrong with that. I've received secular counseling. Nothing wrong with that. You be you, you do you, because not every shoe fits. But I'm telling you, 3 years ago, I was almost done with counseling. We're going to end this show right now because this is the difference between a combat veteran and a veteran. I'm sitting in a circle, and the culminating event was that you, as the veteran, got to have your microphone. You got to spill your guts in front of your peers in a controlled environment, a safe environment, and just break it down, break it down. I sat and listened to a commissioned officer who I respect. Man, this guy, the story he shared, I'm going to paint just a small picture. There are bodies everywhere. And he had to deal with that. But you know what? He said, you know what, Mike? I had to maintain my composure and remember, mission first, then my men, and then me, amongst all those dead bodies. And that's all I'm going to share. He's telling that story. And then I tell my story, and it went around. And then it gets to the last dude. And I'm telling you, this is where I said, I'm done. This dude had the audacity after combat veterans spilled their guts to say, hey, I've never been to combat, but this one time in the motor pool, listen, if you don't think when I was telling my story that I shed some tears, yeah, you're wrong. The other individual, he shed some tears. There was a guy that broke down that he couldn't even finish his story. And this dude had the audacity to go, yeah, but this one time motor pool. Hey, listen, it's 29:51. This is episode 6 of The War Room. Combat veteran, versus the veteran. I am not taking anything away from you. I salute you. I want to paint the picture for you that there is a difference. In part 2, we're going to talk about the mentality, the mindset, because I do things different in my job, and some of my coworkers are like, why? Why is he the way he is? There's a reason. Hey, check it out. I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank you for subscribing. And this has been episode 6 of The War Room. And hey, keeping it real, I highly encourage you to tune in next time. Because I'm going to finish this episode. Whatever you decide to do today, woo! Whatever you decide to do, man, make it great. This is The War Room. Thank you for tuning in.